Okay, guys, nothing fancy here, nothing to see except the insignia on the front of my shirt. A souvenir of the great Anti-Emo Empire radio show that used to air in West Haven, Connecticut by my pal Jeff Terranova. And of course, I proudly count myself as a permanent full-time member of the Anti-Emo Empire. And who am I and why am I proud? Well, because I'm me, Malcolm Tent, and I don't dig that emo stuff. But what I do dig is coming here live every single Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time to bring you my fabulous cable TV show entitled Tent Talks Tunes. Good to be here, guys and gals, buoys and gulls, ladies and gentlemen, ladles and Germans, latelys and germains. Yes, very good to be here. Hello to Alan Versipalis, as usual, the first one in the house. That's how I know I'm live. And I'm apparently on the right page this week. I'm not like accidentally broadcasting on the anti-scene page or the They Hate Us page or the Trash American Style page or the TPOS page or the Danbury Record and CD Expo page. I got so many pages. So many pages. So little time, so little organization. Oy. But I'm here. I am here, and I'm going to reach over here and click on a button, which says that my rate of framing is too low. I'm sorry, I can't do anything about it. You guys have heard me talk about the Mevo camera and software that I use. You've heard me bitch, gripe, moan, and complain, whine, whinge, and wheedle about it ad infinitum, so I won't do that. I'll just say that I am not using the Mevo. I'm using a very cheap webcam because it's the only thing that seems to be working this week. But hey, if it gets the job done, that's all we care about. So yeah, I'm on, I'm live, it's happening, it's hip, it's hep, it's hap. Let's get down to some business, shall we? Let's check, as we always do at the beginning of the show, the bulletin board. And then we've got a little bit of mail to take care of. And then we are most assuredly going to talk tunes. Well, one very exciting item on the bulletin board does relate directly to the subject of mail, and that is I got my brand new, after all this time, after living here in North Carolina for almost 6 months, I have my P.O. box. Many have asked. Now I can give you the answer. This is the official brand new mailing address for me, Malcolm Tent, also TPOS, Trash American Style, all of my various and sundry enterprises. TPOS, P.O. Box 170, Newton, North Carolina, 28658. If you want to write it down, you will have plenty of time over the next hour or so to do it, because there it is on permanent, full display, just like the feathers on a peacock, for all of you to see, hear, feel, know, and absorb. And that is good. I will drink a gallon of hickory tap to that. All right. Excitement, excitement galore. Well, excuse me. I want to thank everybody who over the past 2 weeks ordered this book, which is on proud display on my bulletin board, the Misadventures with G.G. Allen book, written by his pal, his roadie, his tour manager, his merch guy, the late Len Colby. I was up to my eyeballs in book orders and doing nothing but packing and shipping books for days and days and days and days. And they've all gone out. Apparently they've all been received. I've been getting lots of positive feedback about it. And that makes me happy, because this book was a long time in the works. It's only, to the best of my knowledge, the second book ever written about Gigi, like proper book, written by an author and published. The first one was by another one of his roadies in the year 1993, who wishes to remain anonymous these days due to the issue of respectability. And that book has been out of print for quite a while, so this is the second one. And it's pretty, it's fairly substantial. 102 pages worth of prose and pictures, many photos never before seen. all taken by Len Colby himself. Regular edition is a soft cover. It is a numbered edition of 500, each one numbered with a rubber stamp by me. I'm happy to sign them if anybody wants me to sign them. There's also an Amazon edition in soft cover. The Amazon edition can also be had as a hardcover. How's that for respectability? I can't sign or number these because they come directly from Amazon, but if you want a hardcover, you can get it worldwide. And it's also great for all you international shoppers out there, because if you order from your local Amazon in whatever country you're in, you will save a bundle on the shipping. That is a natural fact. So it's out, it's here, it's now. You can get it on eBay, Amazon, or from me directly. Thanks, guys, for the extremely positive response from the book. Ye to the haw. What else is going on here? Well, we've got so many events happening, and I just have not had the time to print out flyers for a lot of them. But this one right here, Rule Breakers Ball, September 19th and 20th at the Ground Zero in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Anti-Scene's official stomping grounds. We love the Ground Zero. Ground Zero loves us. We've had many, many, many great shows there in the past. And definitely looking forward to this one here. September 19th and 20th, a 2-night extravaganza of the most gut bucket, knuckle dragging, Neanderthal, not prog rock, but reg rock, as in regressive rock. Maybe I'm overstating the case a little bit, because there is an awful lot of intelligence in what we do and what all of these bands do. But let's face it, we like to take it down and low and dirty. We like to be willfully regressive, because it's fun. It's fun. What can I tell you? We have fun. The crowds have fun. It's all about it. So for the first time ever, Rule Breakers Ball is going to be in Spartanburg, September 19th and 20th. Taped Fist, Future Hate, Knowledge is for Fools, Before I Hang, and Rancid Vat. And that's just the first night. Second night, Blue Ridge Death Cult, Wrath of Typhon, Self-Made Monsters, Josephus, and the George Jonestown Massacre, and of course, those little old boys from Brutalsville, Anti-Scene. This is a hand-picked lineup. There is no filler. There is no pay-to-play. There is no product placement. And I want to actually share this with you guys a little bit. I see that Mike Lesser is in the house from South Carolina, not Vancouver, BC, but South Kakalaki. Welcome aboard, Mike. Nice and late in the evening. Hope you can enjoy it. Here's a true fact. And this is one of those things I probably should have gleaned a long time ago, but for some reason didn't, because I'm kind of naive in a lot of ways. But I'll bet that you guys out there who are watching have suffered through the same thing that I've suffered through many times when it comes to going to see like a regulation rock show at a big venue. You know, we're talking about like, you know, mainstream rock shows. One of my favorite examples was I went to go see The Creatures. The Creatures being Susie and Budgie from Susie and the Banshees. They were playing a show at Irving Plaza in New York City. You know, it's a mainstream venue. Creatures, mainstream group, you know, with booking agents and lawyers and professional merch and licensing and publishing and all that stuff. So it's like a regular, let's say, corporate rock show. So it was The Creatures plus an opening act. They didn't announce who the opening act was. The opening act came on. Nobody knew who they were. Nobody cared. They were the most generic, bland, by the numbers, like late 90s, I don't know how to even describe it, kind of like hip-hop, pop fusion band. And I'm sure there's a genre to describe that. I just don't know what the name of that is because I don't go anywhere near that stuff. Oh boy, apparently I'm rattling again. Hold on a second. I have to reset the camera. Supposedly that fixes the audio rattle. Anybody let me know if that has stopped the rattle? I have to be very careful not to get too close to the camera, otherwise the autofocus will make the lens retract and it'll start to rattle. So I got to be real careful about that. Hopefully the rattling has stopped by my doing that. So anyway, the Creatures with this completely inappropriate, ill match, no name, go nowhere, dare I say, bullshit opening act. And I knew that they were jive from the second they walked on stage and their DJ or whatever pressed a button, and automatically what came out of the speakers was the pre-recorded sound of vinyl surface noise, like the crackle you get from vinyl, which was just, and maybe still is, just the cheesiest, silliest sound effect, the most overdone, trite sound effect you could use on a DJ production. That was the first sound coming off of that stage. And I knew for a second, I knew right then and there that this was going to be terrible. And it was terrible. And for years I couldn't figure out who were these mugs and why did they get on the bill with an awesome band like the Creatures, who are, considering their mainstream status, as mainstream as they were still like a basically underground band, very unique, completely original, Susie and the Banshees we're talking about here. How did these jerks with their stupid samples of record noise get to be on the bill? Like I said, guys, I'm naive. I don't understand these things. And a lot of that reason is because I just don't transact with mainstream music by and large. I'm an underground guy, always have been. Well, wouldn't you know, there is such a thing as buying a slot on a bill. If there's a show coming into town and it's a hot ticket and probably going to sell out, yes, indeed, if you got enough money behind you and enough influence, you can buy the opening slot on a show like that. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what kind of music it is. It doesn't matter if it's compatible or not. If you got the dough and you got the influence and you got the stroke, you too can open up for U2, let's say. It's product placement. That's all it is product placement. And it just made me hate the mainstream music business even more. Like, as much as I already did, and as much as I still do, that made me despise it even more. Because that shizzy opening band wasted 45 minutes of my life. Wasted it. Wasted it. There was nowhere to go. There was no escape from them. If I wanted to keep my spot close to the stage with my microphones strategically placed for recording the show, I had to stay right there and suffer through these chumps. And suffer I did. All because they paid for that spot. And the funny thing is, the punchline at the end of the day is that it didn't do any good. They didn't make any fans. Nobody liked them. Nobody paid attention to them. They just sort of came and went. We just waited for the Creatures to get on stage. So if there's a lesson in there anywhere, is I would say if you're in a band, don't buy an opening slot because it's a shizzy investment and you will regret it. And worse off, so will we. Just don't do it. Don't do it. The punchline being, there ain't gonna be none of that on one of our shows. Nope. Excuse me. The authentic sound of your host coughing. Every band on this bill is there because we want them to be. Because we like them and we know they're good. And that is that. And Nick Stone says that he is glad there are alternatives to mainstream music. I'll second or third that one. Amen and right on. And we got other events happening. There's Clayton Wenzel. We're making our second ever live performance. It's going to be happening in Concord, North Carolina on July 19th. That's going to be a lot of fun. Danbury Record and CD Expo is happening in November. Anti-Scene playing the Brown Mountain Lights Festival in Morganton. That's October 25th. Lots more going on. Once I get the print matter to stick on the bulletin board, we'll get down, dirty, and in depth. All right, let's open up one piece of mail. I got one piece of mail here. I know better than to shove it in front of the camera. This is addressed to my old address. There's the new address, P.O. Box 170, Newton, North Carolina, 28658. I'm going to reach carefully around here to get the 3-mile box cutter. Whack. And I don't know what this is. It's very light. Rattles only very slightly. And it's from somebody in Stockton, California. A mysterious S.L. from Stockton, California. Who is S.L.? Murray Gelman is in the house. He's sitting comfortably at his home in Tucson, Arizona. Hello, Murray. Murray, do you know anybody in Stockton? Do you know who could be responsible for this? Who could possibly have done such a thing? Me neither, but I think we're going to find out. I'm going to open the box very carefully for this live unboxing here on Tent Talks Tunes. And once again, keeping the box away from the camera because we don't want no rattle. We are opening it very carefully. And let's see here. Dear Malcontent, looking for a label to reissue the most raw and lo-fi suicidal record. Okay. And there is a sheet of paper, handwritten, with mysterious substances all over the paper. I think I know what it is, and I probably don't want to know what it is. Let's see here. Already I'm intrigued. Carefully wrapped in bubble wrap. We will open it so that I don't end up putting any more mysterious substances on that piece of paper, because there's already plenty enough on it. Let us cut this open and reveal the contents. I'm seeing this for the first time ever. So are you. This is the Mutual Thrill of Discovery. From Stockton, California, we got 2 cassettes. Cross the Line and Alone in the Dark. With what looks like very interesting hand-drawn cover art in stark black and white. I'm intrigued. I do not know anything about this. I guess I'm going to have to give it a listen and find out. And what's in this envelope? We're cutting it open live here on Tent Talks Tunes on the Facebook, as happens every Wednesday at 7 p.m. And if you're watching on the YouTube rerun, this is how we do it. This is how we do it live. Man, this thing is mummified. But I guess if you wanted to get from Stockton, California to Newton, North Carolina, you gotta mummify it. Ooh, there's a lot of bubble wrap and tape here, guys. This is at least as good as Christmas morning, maybe better. Maybe worse. I don't know. It's all subjective. Looks like we have a zine of some sort in here. I'm going to throw all caution to the wind and just slice this sucker right open. No more taking care of nothing. All right, we got a 7-inch with a zine. Enigmatic art on the front. What appears to be 3 song titles on the back. And a lyric insert. I do like the very simple song titles, Suicide's Lullaby, Hex, and Layer. I'll check it out. Let's see what it's made of. Thank you for sending this to me, SL, Suicide's Lullaby. I make no promises or guarantees at all about releasing anything, but I do guarantee that I will listen. You have my word on that. It might take a while. It might take some time. But I listen to everything that crosses my desk. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. All right, gang. Shall we talk tunes? I'll just assume the answer is yes. I'm going to assume the answer is Yes, let's talk tunes. And I'm going to do a very quick check on my telephonic device just to make sure that everything is still going out live. You know how it is when you do a live web stream. Anything can happen. All kinds of hell can break loose. So we need our backup devices to make sure that we are indeed going out live. Just bear with me for a second. It's very exciting watching me stare at a phone, isn't it? Very, very exciting. It's live. If I were Dr. Gene Scott, this would be like a regular part of the program. All right, I'm going out. So, last week, I indulged in my basest capitalist instincts and had a show devoted to selling some records. And by cracky, you, the people, enjoyed it. Y'all really liked it. I sold a number of records, and I've gotten the results from some of the people who bought them. They've arrived already, and they are happy with their purchases. So you happy, me happy. You want vinyl, me got bills to pay. Let's see if we can have some of that reciprocity and make capitalism the awesome thing that it should be. I pulled a short stack of records from my seemingly bottomless, endless, deep well of inventory, and I'm going to go through them one by one. And of course, every record's got a story, so this is great. Even if you don't want to buy records, you can still hear the stories behind the records and my personal experiences with these records, and maybe you got something to say about them too. I love reading the comments. I like it when you guys chime in and keep a discussion going, because I feel very strongly about the music that I play, that I love, and thus by extension, that I sell. And I love the stories behind them. So here's the first album right off the top of the pile, and I just grabbed stuff pretty much at random. People may or may not know about my absolute love affair with the Police. I just love the Police. The first Police song I ever heard was Can't Stand Losing You. And it was on WSHE 103.5 during that very narrow and very exciting time window when they went new wave. And they were playing all the newest, hottest releases from the UK and elsewhere. And the Police's second single called Can't Stand Losing You was getting airplay on 103 She. And it was great. I never heard anything like it. It was so sparse and so stripped down and so spare and so catchy. And the lyrics had such dark humor that I was immediately hooked. I became a fan right then and there. And so their first album was out, and apparently it was out in the States, but there were no record stores in South Florida that had it. So I had to mail order to Canada to find a copy of the very first Police album, Outlandos D'Amour. And, you know, this was back in the good old please allow 6 to 8 weeks for delivery days. So I sent my money to Canada, and I waited the 6 to 8 weeks, and eventually the Police Outlandos D'Amour did show up on my front door, on my front porch, actually. Cracked it open, played it. The result, Police fan for life. I bought every Police album as it came out. I tracked down all the B-sides. I tracked down all the imports. Went to go see them on the Ghost in the Machine tour in 1982. I was too young to see them prior to that, but that was a great show. At the Hollywood Sportatorium, the Police, Ghost in the Machine. And right at the peak of Police Mania was their third album, Zenyatta Mandata. Great album. Love this album. This album's for sale. What's on this album? Take a look at the track listing. Oh my God. Don't Stand So Close to Me. Driven to Tears. Da-do-do-do. Da-da-da-da. I think those are the big hits. But then you've got the classic deep album cuts like Shadows in the Rain. When the World is Running Down, you make the best of what's still around. This is a killer record. So what we have here is, as everything I'm showing you, unless I specifically state otherwise, OG original US pressing in fantastic condition. It's got the original inner sleeve with that great, almost punk rock collage. Original A&M labels. And by gum, I think this might be, oh, this is an RCA Music Service pressing. Interesting. I knew that the label text looked a little bit different than your standard A&M label text. RCA Record Club pressing. I did indeed belong to the RCA Record Club and Columbia House when I was a kid. I buttered my toast on both sides because each one had titles that the other one didn't, you know what I mean? So here we go. Minty fresh vinyl, Record Club pressing, original label, original inner sleeve, front cover and back cover. Great album loaded with classics. $15 plus shipping takes it. If you want it, leave a comment. First comment posted gets the record. Don't be shy. I might have to go play this one after I sign off tonight. Mike Lesser says he saw them on the second album tour. That had to have been at the Guzman Cultural Center, I believe. Was that the Guzman, Mike? There's actually film of the Police live at the Guzman Cultural Center, like pro-shot, full camera crew video from that gig. And I know I was too young to go. Kills me. Kills me. But I've seen some good gigs since then. Mike Lester, I believe the Cichlids opened for the Police on that one. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Please affirm if I'm right. Well, as you can tell, since I was looking at the Police, I had to browse through the P records, and I found a couple of records by a band that, if you got ears, you got to listen to, and that is Pere Ubu. I got a couple of Pere Ubu records, and these are both from two very different eras of the band. You've got what would be referred to, I suppose, as the classic era, the 1970s era, and then you've got what would be referred to as the 80s and 90s era of the band. Late 70s, a lot more experimental, a lot noisier, a lot more oblique. 80s and 90s, much more straightforward, but still very opaque with the lyrics. Pere Ubu never backed down from being completely artistic about the lyrics. And I read an interview with David Thomas, the now late and great lead singer of Pere Ubu. He said that Pere Ubu deliberately chose kind of like mainstream, regular sounding rock music as a tool to get their message across. To have lyrics like that and the concept of art to hopefully get through to a larger audience. Don't think it worked out very well, because they never really broke out to that large audience. As a matter of fact, excuse me for 1 second, the situation with Pere Ubu and their record label, Fontana Records at the time, that was a Polygram subsidiary, their relationship was so strange that Fontana would not pay for Pere Ubu's tickets to go fly into New York and be on the David Letterman show. How absurd is that? What better way to promote your band than to have them on David Letterman? But the label wouldn't do it. So Pere Ubu appealed to the fans, sort of like a pre-GoFundMe thing. And if I recall correctly, they actually did raise the funds to get those tickets so they could play on David Letterman. Go figure. Anyway, this one right here, 390 degrees of simulated stereo. This is some raw, wild stuff with heavy-duty industrial sounds and pounding rhythms, all recorded live on site between 1975 and 1981. Man, this is some good stuff. What songs are on here? 30 Seconds Over Tokyo, Humor Me, My Dark Ages, Street Waves, my single favorite Pere Ubu song of all time, and my single favorite version non-alignment pact. That song rocks. Harder than probably you should be allowed to rock. Oh, so good. Heart of Darkness, Real World. Yeah, this is a great album. Great, great, great album. Rough Trade, early 80s pressing. Once again, fantastic condition. This might be an Italian pressing, if my memory serves me correctly. Yes. In the early 80s, Rough Trade licensed titles to the Italian label Bass Record, and they made it to the U.S. as imports. This album at the time was never released in the States, I should mention. So Italian pressing on bass, original label, never had a picture sleeve. In, of course, Mint-O condition O. Maybe not quite as rare as a hen's tooth, but still fairly hard to find. And if you like that Pere Ubu, if you saw them in Erg, A Music War, that was my first introduction to Pere Ubu, was seeing them perform their song called Birdies in Erg. That was an eye-opener. The entire Erg movie was an eye-opener. The Pere Ubu were amongst the many eye-openers in that film. Made a fan of me. So if you want some of this OG original 70s to 80s Pere Ubu, this album is $25 plus shipping. If you're willing to be adventurous and check out some of their later stuff, which, as I said before, is still very oblique in the lyric department, but a lot more straightforward in the musical department, you might want to check out this album, The Tenement Years. This came out on Enigma Records, and this has an original Enigma company sleeve, original Enigma labels, and I don't have to say it, but I will, fabulous mint condition, because I insist on the best. A piddly $15 for the Tenement Year, Pere Ubu, or get them both. You, I think, won't regret it. First one to comment gets it. All right. Abrupt gear shift right here, right now. I do not have any guilty pleasures whatsoever. I feel no guilt about any music or art that I like. Foreigner. Records. Hits. Greatest hits. Foreigner, greatest hits. Now, I'll tell you point blank, there's a lot of Foreigner music that makes me puke. Like projectile vomit if I hear certain Foreigner songs. Let's see. There's at least one of them on this album. At least one of them. I'm not going to say which one, because it's probably somebody's favorite song. The other song that makes me absolutely vomit is not on this record. I guess it was a later release by Foreigner. But you know what? When the first couple of Foreigner records came out, I really liked them. Late 70s, they were good. They were good. They were good. Cold as Ice. That song was all over Y100 radio in 1970, whatever. I still somewhere have a mixed cassette that I made of my favorite songs off the radio, and that song is on there. It's a great tune. Double Vision, title track of the second album. It's a great tune. I'm not going to try to deny it. Urgent, Dirty White Boy, Jukebox Hero, Hot Blooded, feels like the first time. I mean, you're batting 1,000 with this one. And yeah, original, of course. Check this out. It's got the original die-cut front cover, in which the sleeve folds out, revealing the jukebox title strips, printed with information on the back. Gatefold sleeve. I mean, this is a pretty good deluxe packaging, you know. It's conceptually conceptually continuous, I guess you could say. There's the back. There's the front. You know, it's supposed to be a jukebox in a diner. It's really cool. There you go. Custom Atlantic labels from whatever year this came out. It's not a guilty pleasure, but it's I just don't like to admit it. I think that's the thing. It's not guilty. It's like we could talk about other bands that don't need the publicity. But still, you know, a good record's a good record. I'm not going to deny it. And this one is chock full of hits. This record would be in stone cold death mint condition, except it's got one scuff on the end of side 2. The scuff does not affect play. It plays just fine. Plays great. But it's a visual blemish. So if that offends you, I'm sorry. It does make the price a little bit lower than what it might have been. $8. $8 for a perfectly good play copy of Foreigner Records. Loaded with hits, die-cut sleeve, original printed inner, gatefold, and you're going to get nothing but pleasure from it. $8. Could be yours because the price is right. Now you want to talk about the radio. Oh boy, radio was a thing. Radio was a powerful cultural force. If you're anything like me, the radio helped you to so much good music, more than could possibly be counted or measured, practically. Before I go on, I want to know if someone could chime in. I just leaned in kind of close to the camera. Is the clicking noise back? Is it still making that stupid clicking noise? Maybe I can give a listen here on my in-ear monitor and see if it's clicking. Because I don't want to subject you guys to that clicking noise any more than I want to think of it going out there. Let's listen to me for a second and see if I'm clicking or not. We can take advantage of the 5 or 6 second delay and see if I'm clicking. Let's listen to me for a second. Okay, I'm not clicking. Good to know. Anyway, okay, Scott LaRock says I'm good. Kyle says I'm good. Thank you guys, much appreciated. Talk about mind-blowing songs. Music that was unlike anything ever heard before. I believe the year was 1975, maybe 74. Let's see if there's a date on this thing. We can clarify that. 74 or 75. There was a song that was all over FM radio back in the day. And we're going to go back to Foreigner for a second. Murray Gelman says that Foreigner's Luann off of the 4th album is an underrated gem. All right, that makes me curious. A good song's a good song, you know what I mean, Jelly Bean? 74, this song was all over the radio, and I loved this song because not only was the musicianship just off the charts, songwriting, the playing, I mean, you could tell even my very young, tender ear knew that this was heavy-duty music. But it also had a really weird, off-kilter sound to it. There was obviously some kind of odd sense of humor at play. And the song was like 6.5 minutes long, and they would play this entire song on FM radio. And did I mention that it rocked in between stints of being, it alternated between being totally weird, totally prog, and totally rockin'. The song was called Hocus Pocus. The band was called Focus, a band from the Netherlands. And I was too young, or for whatever reason, I'm pretty sure that Hocus Pocus was not released as a single. That's how I remember it happening. Could be wrong about that, but I have a suspicion that it was not released as a single. And oddly enough, at the time, even though I was just starting to haunt the record stores, I never saw this album. For whatever reason, I don't know, I never saw Moving Waves by Focus, which featured Hocus Pocus. You'd see their other albums all over the place in the cutout bins. The cutout bins were stocked with Focus 3, Focus Con Proby, Hamburger Concerto, and I think there might have been one other. But all these other Focus albums being readily available did not make this, the hit album, readily available. It was a very strange situation. I didn't see one of these until years later. And even now, in my adventures buying and selling record collections and, you know, being the record retailer that I am, I still find far fewer copies of this than I do their other albums that were in the cutout bins all the time. It's very strange. A genuine hit song that's quite underrepresented in the marketplace. Anyway, here it is, Moving Waves by Focus with Hocus Pocus. Same deal as always, Stone Cold original 1970 whatever pressing. It's got the old style Sire label. This is back before Warner Brothers distributed Sire. This is a Gulf and Western company at the time. And maybe that has something to do with it because Gulf and Western were a second tier label. And their distribution was not that great. So it just might be a case of the record just not getting out to the stores because the distribution was bad. But here it is. Here's one of them. Beautiful, fresh, virtually unplayed condition. And you can put on Hocus Pocus and play air guitar and dance around your living room and crank the volume so that your neighbors are annoyed, kind of like I do every night, and have yourself a good old time. $10 plus shipping takes it. First person to comment or to message me directly gets it. Get it? Got it. I'm sure everybody is aware, if you're a musico like myself, everybody's aware that the great Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys died last week at the age of 82. All I could say was, poor guy, I hope he is indeed resting in peace now. I really hope that he's at peace. Because if there was anybody in their life who was not allowed any peace, or to quote one of his song titles, Love and Mercy, it was Brian Wilson. That guy was put through the ringer 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8, who even knows how many times. Fragile guy. He had his first nervous breakdown at the age of whatever in 1965. I think he was probably in his late teens at the time. First nervous breakdown in 1965. Gave up touring so he could just stay in the studio and do what he loved doing best, which is writing and recording. Of course, created Pet Sounds, one of those albums that will be played until the end of the human race. Was crafting the follow-up to that one, which is going to blow Pet Sounds out of the water. Was not able to finish it. At least one more nervous breakdown interrupted that. Critical incomprehension, band incomprehension, label incomprehension. Basically, nobody got it. Nobody understood what he was trying to do with his music and with the lyrics that Van Dyke Parks wrote. I honestly believe that if Smile, that album I'm talking about, if that album had come out and it was supposed to come out in early 1967, that would have been the game changer rather than Sgt. Pepper. Because Sgt. Pepper didn't come out till about 5 months later. I really think Smile would have set the benchmark for where rock music could go. As it is, the record was never even finished, never released, and the Beach Boys spent the next 40 years, so to speak, in the desert. Lost profits denounced because of their lost opportunity. didn't stop them from continuing to make some really good music. And, a lot of Beach Boys records suffer from intense lameness, in my opinion, mainly because of the second-rate input from the other members of the band. No, I never mentioned the name Mike Love. Not once. Nope, didn't mention the name Mike Love once. Promise. But even in some of their most dreary, dire albums, there are gems to be found. They can be found, usually courtesy of Brian Wilson, who could occasionally still produce in the studio. Dennis Wilson, he was the Wilson who he could have been the heir to the throne, except for his personal demons, which prevented that from happening. But Dennis wrote some great stuff. Carl was never much of a writer, but he had a very good ear for production, and he could choose good songs. Al Jardine, whatever. Mike Love, whatever. Even those guys delivered a couple of good performances here and there. Not in the writing department, but in the performing department. So the Beach Boys, always worth checking out. And that syndrome began almost immediately with the album that came out instead of Smile, an album called Smiley Smile. Smiley Smile is one of the most bizarre records I've ever heard in my life. It is a weird damn record. They repurposed a handful of songs from Smile and did like the most stripped down, bare bones, minimal versions you could imagine with very, very little production. They're just weird. They're just really weird. In the early days, when there were these bootleg albums of Smile circulating, at that time, nobody really knew what Smile was. They didn't know exactly what was going to be on it. And so these people would cobble together these track listings of songs that they knew were from Smile, but, the actual versions were not available, or it was just guesswork. And so a couple of these early Smile bootlegs had the Smiley Smile versions of these songs, which is the first time I ever heard these songs. And I was struck immediately by how bizarre they were. They were strange. They were like dark sounding, creepy sounding. It was not your usual Beach Boys Fun in the Sun, Little Deuce Coupe 409, as Van Dyke Park said, Dinwiddie Pearl Hang 10. This was very, very weird music. And then after that, they did an album called Wild Honey, and then after that, an album called Friends. And Friends has got some honest-to-God beautiful music on it. Dennis did a song called Little Bird, which is just wonderful. The title track is one of Brian Wilson's best ever productions and backing tracks. And wouldn't you know, I've got this double LP here. It's got Smiley Smile on one album and Friends on the other. Gatefold sleeve. This is an original 1976 pressing on the Beach Boys' own label, Brother Records, Brother/Reprise. Hey, what do you know? Mint condition. What else is on Friends here? Busy Doing Nothing? Oh, man. Awesome. Great Brian Wilson track. Little Bird, Friends. Wake the World is a good one. We've got some real gems on this. And then, of course, on the other disc, the one I was just yapping about, the very strange Smiley Smile record. Also on the original Brother Reprise. It's got an ancient price tag on one of the labels. Sure, it could come off pretty easily. And the standard Stone Cold mint condition. Mint condition. This is an original tip-on sleeve, so it's seamed and glued, and the top's got a little bit of wear on it. A little bit of wear. A little bit of ring wear on the outside, but still in really good shape, totally presentable. Discs are mint, and if you've got an adventurous ear, I guarantee satisfaction. Some extremely underrated gems from the Beach Boys catalog. Double album, 15 bucks. Be the first to comment. Take it home. Jimmy Repo, I got your message. Thank you, Jimmy. That sounds good. I'll see you there. And we will transact then. And then I'll see you at the Devo show in Charlotte. Front row center, baby. You know it. All right, I want to talk about another weird and wonderful Beach Boys record. Fast forward to 1976. This is one of those albums that I saw in the cutout bins everywhere all the time. It seemed like if they pressed 1 million of these records, somewhere around 998,000 of them ended up in the cutout bins. And, you know, in 1976, I wasn't thinking about the Beach Boys too much, let alone this one album that nobody seemed to want. It took me a long time after I got deep into my Beach Boys obsession to finally get around to playing this record. The Beach Boys love you. Well, change my name to Ritz and call me a cracker if it isn't one of the... I love this album. I love this album. It's, I'll say it again, downright weird. It's practically lo-fi. This was from a time in Brian Wilson's life when he was just barely hanging in there. He had just begun his regime with the infamous psychiatrist, Dr. Eugene Landy, who got Brian Wilson healthy enough to go into the studio and start recording and producing again. But Brian Wilson was still not a healthy guy. He was not strong. He was very fragile. And the way people described it, he was very distracted. So it was kind of like you had to get what you could out of him. And he wrote and produced this entire album, but the only thing he could write about were his very small, insular world. He basically lived in his bedroom. He refused to come out of his bedroom for years, unless he was basically forced to. And so they forced him to go into the studio and do this album, The Beach Boys Love You. So what was Brian Wilson writing about in his world? Well, he apparently watched a lot of Johnny Carson, because there is a song called Johnny Carson. He sings about the solar system. He sings about, some love songs on here, breakup songs, but all written from a really, really unique perspective. And unlike Pet Sounds or Smile, the sound is very stripped down. Once again, very sparse. The lyrics are highly unusual. This record is a delight. It's kind of like if a child, and the follow-up to this album is going to be called Adult Child. So just think about that concept. An adult child writing and recording and producing this album. And there's not a bad song on this record. You just can't go expecting Surfin' USA, because it ain't Surfin' USA. It's a whole different animal. So you can see shrink wrap is still on it. Still got the shrink. Cover is in very, very nice condition. Original inner sleeve. Once again, it's on the Beach Boys' own label, Brother, in conjunction with Reprise. And once again, man, that vinyl is looking good. As is typical of practically every copy of this that was ever sold, whoever bought it probably got about 2.5 songs into it and said, okay, I can't dance to this. There's no 409, there's no Little Deuce Coupe. I think I'm out of here. But it's like those Pere Ubu records I talked about earlier. If you've got an adventurous ear and you love modern day primitives and true visionaries, such as Brian Wilson, I cannot recommend this album enough. I love this album. Got one in my personal collection. This one can be yours. $10 plus shipping. $10 bucks plus shipping. Cheap. And if you're the type who does want to hear, and I'll name them off, if you do want to hear Surfin', Surfer Girl, Catch a Wave, Surfin' USA, The Warmth of the Sun, Be True to Your School, Little Deuce Coupe, Fun, 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 In My Room, Shut Down, I Get Around, The Girls on the Beach, Wendy, Let 'Em Run Wild, Don't Worry Baby, California Girls, oh yeah, Girl Don't Tell Me, Help Me Rhonda, You're So Good to Me, and All Summer Long. If you want the Beach Boys' Fun in the Sun, if you want the Little Deuce Coupe and the Surfin', if you want the Dinwiddie Pearl Hang 10, what I got right here is the double album of your dreams. This also came out in 1976. This was going to be called Beach Boys' Greatest Hits. They changed the title to Endless Summer. It ended up selling how many millions of albums, I don't even know. But this is the yardstick by which the early Beach Boys productions must be measured. If it was a killer Beach Boys track, it's on this album. And that's all there is to it. Double LP. That means not one, but 2 discs. Stone Cold Original. Mid-70s Capitol label. It's orange. It's even got the old configuration where the first disc is side 1 coupled with side 4. You don't see that no more. And then the second disc, which is also in mint condition, has side 2 coupled with side 3. And I'll bet some of you people out there know why that is. I'll bet somebody out there knows why the album would be coupled with sides 1 and side 4 on one disc, and sides 2 and side 3 on the other disc. Please feel free to comment. We record geeks love talking about this stuff. We love it. We just love it. So yeah, both records, minty fresh, original labels, original gatefold sleeve. And did I mention the poster? Yes, the poster comes with it too. I don't think this one's ever been unfolded, so I'm not going to unfold it. But the Beach Boys original Endless Summer poster, one of which I had hanging up in my bedroom when I was a kid. Double album, poster, mint condition, original press, 20 bucks, plus shipping, takes it. Oh yes. And Scott LaRock guessed correctly. You stack them back in the days of when you had the automatic record changer, which had a big long spindle up the middle and a little tiny arm that fit on the top. You take both records, stack them on top of the spindle, put the arm over to hold them into place, press the button, and the records would drop down and play side 1, and the arm would automatically retract, and then the record would drop and you play side 2. Repeat the process, flip the records over, side 3 on one disc, record side is over, next record drops, side 4. Yes, back in my day, that's how you listened to records. Technology was pretty cool, man. Pretty cool. Kyle has jumped right in and says he will take the Endless Summer. Kyle, you got it. Endless Summer is yours. And I'll be very happy to see a fine album like this go to a good home like yours. Man, pity I mailed out your Gigi book earlier today, man. Otherwise, I would have bundled them both. But hey, what are you gonna do? It's all good, and you're getting it all. So glad to see this one getting a good home. And yeah, man, other Beach Boys records, Pere Ubu, Focus, The Police, Foreigner. I got them all here, kids. If you want them, message me directly. Comment sometime. We'll get it done. And just like that, my friends, 1 hour has elapsed, which means I'm out of here. I got to go listen to some records and fill some orders, feed the cat, do all the good stuff that Malcontent does this early in his day. So as always, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Always a pleasure to talk tunes with you and be freaky and geeky when it comes to the music. If all goes well, I do hope to be back in 167 hours' time. So till we meet again, coming at you live from the anti-emo empire, this is Malcontent saying so long from the Tar Heel State.